Welcome, you curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the, well, compelling and often tumultuous world of Sylvia Day's Reflected in You. And this isn't just, a straightforward romance novel. It's really a raw exploration of how these deep-seated past traumas shape our present and the agonizing fight two people go through to heal and somehow stay connected. Now, before we really unpack this intricate narrative, it's probably worth a quick mention that journeys like this are thankfully incredibly accessible these days. Our source material reminded us that platforms like Audible are just fantastic gateways to a whole universe of audiobooks and podcasts. They often have that enticing first month free for new subscribers, which is, well, it's a brilliant way to immerse yourself in stories and insights, especially ones as complex as this one.
Absolutely. And Reflected in You really offers a rich landscape for that kind of immersion, doesn't it? As a second installment of the Crossfire series, it picks right up with Eva Trammell and Gideon Cross. And our mission today really is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from this whirlwind of passion, secrets, and emotional battles. I think the core insight here is that for trauma survivors like Eva and Gideon, intense passion isn't just about connection. It's more like a crucible, where the deepest vulnerabilities get forced to the surface, challenging the very foundation of trust itself.
Okay, so if we're looking at these two individuals, both deeply damaged, trying desperately to forge some kind of connection, where does Sylvia Day really start laying the groundwork for that intense, almost overwhelming journey for them?
Well, the story immediately establishes what you might call a shared brokenness. It's right there from the start. Eva carries these deep scars from childhood abuse, while Gideon is haunted by his own demons, ones he rarely, if ever, voices. And this mutual trauma, it creates an incredibly potent electric pull between them. It's undeniable. Yet what's crucial to understand, I think, is that this same shared history makes their relationship inherently volatile, like a fire, that both warms and burns. From the very beginning, we see this constant battle for control playing out. You've got Gideon's almost obsessive need to protect and dominate clashing fiercely with Eva's desperate need for independence and agency. The nugget of knowledge here really is that for individuals deeply scarred by their pasts, intimacy isn't just a comfort. It becomes this constant negotiation between craving connection and that deep instinct for self-preservation.
That's a really powerful way to put it. So it sounds like this isn't some fairy tale where love just magically erases everything. Given their profound individual wounds, what specific mechanisms does the novel suggest are still missing, even with that intense connection, to truly sustain them?
You've hit on a crucial point there. Their passion is undeniable, it's deeply consuming, but the source material makes it abundantly clear that it's profoundly insufficient. It just can't overcome their deeply rooted issues on its own. Their bond, despite its intensity, is profoundly fragile because the tools for healthy interaction, things like open communication, unwavering trust, mutual respect for personal space, they're largely absent or severely underdeveloped. The sheer force of their connection can bridge gaps momentarily, sure, but it can't mend the underlying fractures without conscious, really painful effort from both sides.
Right, right. And speaking of those deeper issues, it becomes glaringly obvious that a massive hurdle for Eva and Gideon is trust, or maybe more accurately, a profound lack of it. How does that fractured trust really manifest itself and become such a constant battleground in their relationship?
It's interesting. It's less about a lack of trust in the, let's say, conventional sense, and more about how vulnerability itself is perceived by them. For Gideon, his need to control his world, often through secrecy, well, that directly clashes with Eva's fundamental demand for honesty and transparency. It's a collision course. His secrets, even when he genuinely believes they're protective, inevitably reopen Eva's old wounds. They trigger her deepest insecurities, her fears of abandonment. So their relationship becomes this relentless push and pull dynamic. We see these breathtaking moments of intimacy, really intense connection, quickly followed by sudden walls of silence or unexplained absences or these jealous confrontations. The core insight here, I think, is that this constant push and pull reveals a crucial dynamic you often see in trauma-bonded relationships. Intimacy often triggers just as much fear as it does comfort. And that creates a cycle where closeness is immediately followed by this kind of self-protective withdrawal. It must be exhausting. It's this exhausting dance of doubt and devotion.
So it's not just about what's hidden necessarily, but the impact of that hiding on Eva's already fragile sense of security. So how can Eva ever truly build confidence in Gideon when he operates in such secrecy? And on the flip side, how can Gideon, with his past trauma, his belief that love always eventually leaves him, truly trust Eva not to abandon him? How do they even begin to break such a seemingly impossible cycle of fear?
That's really the million-dollar question the novel grapples with, isn't it? And it doesn't offer easy answers, which I think is realistic. Instead, it suggests that breaking the cycle requires more than just romantic intent. It needs, like, a re-education in how to be in a healthy relationship. For Gideon, it means confronting the fact that his control, while it offers him a semblance of safety, actively destroys the trust Eva desperately needs. And for Eva, it's about learning to differentiate between legitimate threats and her own triggers, which is incredibly hard, and demanding her needs be met without sacrificing her core self. Their journey really highlights that for deeply wounded individuals, trust isn't just a given, it's this painstakingly constructed bridge, built brick by brick, often against the constant tide of fear.
And just when you think they might start to find some kind of footing, maybe build a few bricks of that bridge, their past relationships start to complicate matters, almost sabotaging any progress they might be making. Eva's ex, Brett Klein, reappears. He's charming, handsome, and a potent reminder of a simpler, less complicated time for her. How does his presence and others from their pasts amplify Gideon's possessiveness to really dangerous levels?
Yeah, this external pressure acts like a stress test on their already fragile bond. It really pushes them. And Gideon's world is, as you say, riddled with women, from his past ex-lovers, business associates, even some with more sinister motives. These figures constantly remind Eva that she isn't the only woman who's commanded his attention, and that just feeds her insecurities.
Yeah.
But what makes this particularly destructive is Gideon's continued silence. His refusal to explain many of his actions or these interactions. It leaves Eva in this painful limbo, constantly questioning. Is he truly protecting her like he claims? Or is he hiding something far more personal, something damaging? The deeper insight here is that when trust is already compromised, even potentially benign interactions with past figures become magnified threats. They're perceived not just as external competition, but as direct betrayals of the present bond.
So it's not just about the women themselves, but Gideon's reaction to them and his continued opaqueness that really throws Eva into a tailspin. And speaking of intensity, if there's one thing that defines Eva and Gideon, it's that raw, almost visceral passion. Their physical connection is described as relentless, sometimes tender, often raw, always charged with emotion. It feels like it goes so much deeper than just physical attraction, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And the truly intriguing part here, I think, is how their intimacy transcends mere pleasure. It becomes this desperate affirmation of their bond, serving as both a sanctuary and a battleground. It's paradoxical. Each encounter is like a profound declaration of, I need you, but it also serves as this stark reminder of their profound vulnerability to one another. For Eva, she's constantly grappling with whether this consuming passion signifies true love, or if it's actually a dangerous addiction that could ultimately destroy them both. It's a valid fear. Gideon, for his part, seems to cling to Eva as his lifeline, feeling almost unable to function without her. The core insight, perhaps, is that for characters like Eva and Gideon, whose pasts have left them profoundly broken, physical intimacy is often the only space where they feel they can truly be safe and whole. Even if that safety is temporary and fraught with risk, it's like a temporary balm for these deep psychological wounds.
That addictive quality really does elevate the stakes, doesn't it? Risking not just their love, but maybe their sanity, their emotional stability. And as their story unfolds, we realize the dangers they face extend far beyond their personal dynamic. There are actual individuals from Gideon's past who would prefer to see him ruined, or worse. This adds a critical layer of external threat to their already volatile internal struggles.
Indeed. And this external threat pushes the narrative into this morally gray area, compelling us, the readers, to ask, how much can love truly justify? One of the most shocking elements, certainly of Reflected in You, is the revelation of Gideon's extreme measures to protect Eva. His secrecy, we eventually learn, is often not about betrayal in the way she initially fears, but about shielding her from truths he believes would harm her even more deeply. But this protection sometimes involves violent, sometimes morally ambiguous acts. The profound question the novel forces us to confront is, how far should one person go to protect another? And at what point does that love cross into dangerous obsession or even destruction? The novel seems to suggest that for Gideon, that line is practically non-existent when Eva's safety is perceived to be at stake, which makes his love both a source of intense comfort and, frankly, a terrifying force.
It certainly makes you question the nature of heroism and devotion in that context. And while Gideon often dominates the narrative with his dark charisma, Eva's journey is equally crucial, isn't it? She starts out wanting to believe in love, but deeply fearing self-loss, which is a really relatable conflict for many people. How does her profound growth within this intense relationship offer insights into maintaining personal agency amidst chaos?
Well, what stands out about Eva's journey is that her profound growth doesn't happen despite Gideon, but often because of the sheer intensity of their relationship. It forces her hand in a way. As her connection with him deepens, Eva is forced to confront her own insecurities, her fierce need for independence, and perhaps most importantly, her capacity to forgive both herself and others. She learns that truly loving Gideon means accepting his, well, significant imperfections and realizing she cannot fix him. That's a huge step. And crucially, she understands she must establish her own boundaries to avoid being completely swallowed by his intensity. Her evolution truly lies in balancing surrender with strength, learning when to yield to love and when to fiercely demand honesty and respect. The key insight here, I think, is that in these deeply challenging relationships, true self-discovery often emerges not from avoiding conflict, but from confronting it head-on. It forces you to define your own limits and values.
It's a really powerful arc of self-discovery happening right in the middle of the chaos of their romance. And the tension just builds relentlessly, doesn't it? To this climactic turning point where everything Eva has doubted about Gideon, his secrecy, the late nights, his erratic behavior, it all seems to confirm her worst fears of betrayal. She feels utterly broken at that point, convinced he's chosen his past over their future.
Yes, and broadening this out, the truth when it than she could have possibly imagined. Gideon hasn't betrayed her in the conventional sense she feared. Not at all. Instead, he has committed acts that reveal the staggering, almost terrifying depths of his devotion to her. Acts that may bind them together forever but leave us and Eva with these profound questions about morality, safety, and the true price of such love. This revelation isn't just a plot twist. It fundamentally redefines their relationship. It's both terrifying and deeply affirming for Eva, somehow. And for Gideon, it's the ultimate proof in his mind that he will sacrifice anything, absolutely anything, to keep her safe. The critical takeaway here might be that sometimes the greatest declarations of love in a trauma-bonded relationship like this come not from gentle words, but from extreme, sometimes morally compromising acts of protection. Acts that paradoxically both solidify and complicate the bond immeasurably.
That's a truly chilling and captivating revelation. So after such a monumental turning point, and with their understanding of love and protection so drastically redefined, what are the lasting implications for their future together? Can a relationship forged in such intense fire truly find a sustainable peace?
That's the lingering question, isn't it? The novel suggests that peace, at least in their context, will always be a work in progress, not some fixed state they achieve. The implications are profound. Their love is no longer a soft comfort, if it ever was. It's a powerful, consuming force that has fundamentally reshaped both of them. It means constantly navigating the scars, the dark corners of Gideon's protective instinct, and Eva's ongoing struggle to maintain her own identity within that. The lasting insight is probably that while their bond is now virtually unbreakable, it's also perpetually living on the edge. It requires continuous effort, a deep, perhaps unsettling acceptance of each other's flaws, and an ongoing fight against the shadows of their pasts. It's a love that demands everything from them.
Wow. Reflected in You is clearly so much more than a typical romance novel. It's a raw, incredibly intense story about survival, obsession, and that arduous search for healing through love. Sylvia Day gives us two characters who are as magnetic as they are deeply flawed, showing us that love is rarely neat or easy. It's messy, it's consuming, and sometimes it's downright terrifying. But for Eva and Gideon, it is undeniably the one thing worth fighting for. It defines them utterly.
Absolutely. And love that burns that fiercely can never leave either person unchanged. It's impossible. The scars may remain, some perhaps even deepen over time, but so too does that unshakable bond, albeit one forged in fire and shadow. As we step away from this deep dive into Eva and Gideon's world, it leaves us with a powerful, maybe slightly unsettling thought to consider. In our own lives, or just in observing relationships, how do we distinguish between a profound, all-consuming devotion and a love that veers dangerously close to obsession? What truly defines the boundaries of acceptable sacrifice when hearts are on the line? Definitely something to mull over until our next deep dive.